The ground trembled like the roar of an ancient beast awakening beneath the city streets. In that split second, Mark Thompson's world shattered, not just from the earthquake ripping through San Francisco, but from the heart-wrenching choice he was about to make. His hands gripped the steering wheel of his beat-up Toyota, knuckles white, as buildings swayed and car alarms wailed in a chaotic symphony. He was minutes away from the biggest job interview of his life, the one that could pull him and his daughter out of the suffocating grip of poverty. But ahead, through the dust and debris, he saw a silver SUV teetering on the edge of a crumbling overpass, its driver, a woman, trapped inside, her screams piercing the air like a knife. Time slowed. Mark's mind flashed to his little girl, Lily, waiting at home with the babysitter, her innocent eyes full of hope. "Daddy's gonna get that job," he'd promised her that morning, kissing her forehead. But in that moment, with the earth still shaking, he slammed on the brakes. He couldn't drive past. Not today. Not ever. Mark was 38, a single dad who'd been dealt a raw hand by life. 3 years ago, his wife, Sarah, had been taken by a sudden aneurysm, leaving him alone to raise their then 5-year-old daughter. Sarah had been the light of their lives, vibrant, artistic, the kind of mom who turned rainy days into indoor picnics with fairy lights and homemade cookies. Her death had plunged Mark into a darkness he barely escaped, drowning in grief while juggling 2 part-time jobs as a mechanic and a delivery driver. Bills piled up like unopened wounds. Rent, medical expenses from Sarah's final days, and now Lily's school fees. The girl was his anchor, a bright-eyed 8-year-old with her mother's curly hair and a laugh that could melt the hardest heart. But lately, her questions cut deep. "Daddy, why can't we go to Disneyland like Emma's family?" she'd ask, not understanding the weight of their empty fridge or the eviction notices tucked away in drawers. This interview was supposed to change everything. It was for a senior mechanic position at Apex Auto, a prestigious firm specializing in electric vehicles. The salary was double what he made now, with benefits that included health insurance, crucial for Lily, who had asthma attacks that terrified him every time. He'd prepared for weeks, polishing his resume, practicing answers in the mirror, even borrowing a suit from his brother. "This is our ticket out, kiddo," he'd told Lily over breakfast that morning, forcing a smile as he straightened his tie. She'd hugged him tight, her small arms around his neck. "I believe in you, Daddy. You're my hero." The drive to the interview had been nerve-wracking enough, traffic snarling through the morning fog. Mark rehearsed his pitch aloud. "I'm reliable, skilled with hybrids, and I know how to lead a team." But then, without warning, the quake hit, a 7.2 magnitude monster that buckled roads and toppled lampposts. His car fishtailed as the asphalt rippled like waves on a stormy sea. Horns blared, people screamed from sidewalks, and in the rearview mirror, he saw a billboard crash down behind him. Adrenaline surged through his veins, his heart pounding like a drum. He could have kept driving. The Apex building was just a few blocks ahead, visible through the haze. But fate, or perhaps something greater, had other plans. The silver SUV was precariously balanced, its front wheels dangling over a widening crack in the overpass. Inside, a woman in her 40s pounded on the window, her face etched with terror. Debris rained down, chunks of concrete, twisted metal, from the collapsing structure above. Mark's phone buzzed in his pocket, a text from the babysitter. "Earthquake. Lily's scared but okay. Where are you?" He swallowed hard, visions of his daughter cowering under the kitchen table flashing before him. But the woman's eyes locked with his through the chaos, pleading silently. "Help me." Without a second thought, Mark leapt from his car. The ground still shuddered with aftershocks, making every step a battle. "Hold on," he shouted, his voice barely audible over the rumble. He dodged falling rubble, his suit jacket tearing on jagged rebar as he climbed toward the vehicle. The overpass groaned ominously, threatening to give way entirely. "I'm coming. Just stay calm." Reaching the SUV, he yanked at the door, jammed. The woman, her name tag reading, "Drive." Elena Vasquez, was hyperventilating, blood trickling from a gash on her forehead. "My leg, it's stuck," she gasped, pointing to where the dashboard had crumpled around her. Mark's mechanic instincts kicked in. He grabbed a loose piece of metal from the debris, using it as a lever to pry the door open with a screech. But her leg was pinned under the steering column. Time was running out, cracks spider-webbed across the concrete beneath them. Sweat poured down his face as he worked frantically, ignoring the pain in his hands from the sharp edges. "What's your name?" he asked, trying to keep her focused. "Elena," she whispered, tears streaming. "I have a son, he's waiting for me at school. Please, I'm Mark." And you're gonna see him today, I promise. His mind raced back to Sarah's last moments in the hospital, the helplessness he'd felt. He couldn't let that happen to someone else. With a Herculean effort, he wedged the metal bar deeper and heaved, the column shifting just enough. Pull your leg out, now! She cried out in pain but freed herself. Mark grabbed her arm, hauling her from the wreckage just as another aftershock hit. The SUV plummeted into the abyss below with a deafening crash. They tumbled to the ground, rolling away from the edge as the overpass partially collapsed behind them. Sirens wailed in the distance, but for a moment, it was just them, two strangers, alive amid the ruins. Elena clutched his arm, sobbing. You saved my life. Why, you could have kept going. Mark glanced at his watch. The interview time had come and gone. His phone showed missed calls from Apex. A wave of despair hit him, but he pushed it down. Because it's what anyone should do, he said simply, helping her to her feet. Paramedics arrived soon after, whisking Elena away in an ambulance. Mark refused treatment for his cuts, insisting he was fine. He needed to get home to Lily. The drive back was a nightmare, roads blocked, power lines down, the city in pandemonium. His mind swirled with regret. What now? The job was gone. How would he explain to Lily? When he finally burst through the door, she flew into his arms, burying her face in his torn suit. Daddy, I was so scared. I'm here, baby, we're okay. He held her tight, fighting back tears. That night, as he bandaged his hands and stared at the ceiling, doubt crept in. Had he thrown away their future for a stranger? Sarah would have been proud, he knew that. But pride didn't pay the bills. Hours later, well, technically, it was the next morning, Mark's phone rang. An unknown number. Mr. Thompson, this is Elena Vasquez. From yesterday. His heart skipped. How are you? Is everything all right? Better than all right, thanks to you. Her voice was warm, steady now. I couldn't stop thinking about what you did. You mentioned you were on your way to an interview. Apex Auto, right? He froze. How did you? I saw the Apex folder in your car when you pulled me out. Mark, I'm not just any doctor. I'm the chief surgeon at St. Mary's Hospital, but more importantly, my husband is the CEO of Apex Auto. Richard Vasquez. The world tilted again, but this time, in a good way. Elena explained. She'd called Richard from the hospital, recounting Mark's heroism. Intrigued, he'd pulled Mark's resume from the pile of no-shows. He wants to meet you personally, she said. Not for pity, but because character like yours is rare. And honestly, after what you did for me, we'd be fools not to hire you. 2 days later, Mark sat in Richard Vasquez's office, not as a desperate applicant but as a hero. Richard, a burly man with kind eyes, shook his hand firmly. My wife is my everything. You saved her, which means you saved me too. But let's talk shop. You know your stuff, Thompson. The job's yours, with a signing bonus to boot. Mark's eyes welled up. I don't know what to say. Say you'll start Monday, Richard grinned. Elena was there too, her leg in a brace, hugging him like an old friend. And bring your daughter sometime. My son would love a playdate. The transition wasn't seamless, life never is. Mark faced challenges adjusting to the new role. Longer hours meant more babysitter time, and Lily's asthma flared up once, sending them to the ER. But with the health benefits, it was covered, no crushing debt. He confided in Elena during a company picnic, admitting his lingering grief over Sarah. It never fully goes away, she said gently. But you honor her by living fully, by being the dad Lily needs. As months passed, Mark thrived. He mentored younger mechanics, drawing on his hard-knock experiences. Lily blossomed too, her drawings now filled with happy families and super dad capes. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, she turned to him. Daddy, remember when you saved that lady? That was brave, he smiled, pulling her close. Brave is what you are every day, kiddo. The story of that day spread quietly, first through Apex, then via a local news piece Elena encouraged. Strangers reached out, inspired by Mark's selflessness. But the real miracle was internal. Mark learned that true strength isn't in chasing security at all costs, but in choosing humanity when it matters most. In the end, life doesn't always reward good deeds with fairy tale twists. But sometimes, it does. Mark's act of kindness didn't just save Elena, it rippled outward, mending his own broken world. It reminded him, and all who heard it, that in our darkest tremors, compassion is the unshakable foundation. Skip the interview, save the stranger, because the universe has a way of interviewing your heart instead. And when it does, the rewards are beyond measure.